Thank you very much, Presiding Officer. And let me start by joining others in congratulating Elaine Murray in securing the time for this debate. It's clear that the views expressed almost unanimously across the Chamber are passionate and are driven by a clear desire to improve the welfare of circus animals. I have no difficulty at the outset in accepting the basic proposition that is delineated in the motion that's before us. There is a long history of animals in circuses. By coincidence, it appears that the practice started almost exactly at the point where children were no longer set up chimneys to clean chimneys, and at the point that slavery was abolished. So perhaps we might see one form of slavery replaced by another. Kim and Stewart referred to the ban in Aberdeen that's been long-standing, and I think the existence of that ban and the continuing ability of circuses to visit Aberdeen in the face of that ban demonstrates that the practical effect of such a ban is not necessarily going to be too great. He also referred to objective evidence of stress in travelled animals. That's not something that my briefing pack had drawn my attention to, and I think it's something that will inform all of us in looking at this issue, because it is a piece of objective evidence. And of course, one of the arguments is that with only some 39 animals remaining in circuses in the UK, there is a limited evidence base to drive the argument. But I think Hugh Henry and others made the point that it is not simply about objective evidence, because the evidence, such as it is, has been looked at for a long time. It is about our duty to the animals that are in our care and beyond in the wild where they remain. Richard Lockhead indeed supported efforts on this. Now, let me turn to Alec Ferguson. I'm not quite sure, let me quote, I never quite remember if it was St Thomas Aquinas or someone else, "O Lord, give me chastity, but not yet." So I think that may have been your second maiden speech, which is probably relatively unique. Would that you had waited for another occasion, if I may say so, Mr Ferguson. I did think the intervention of Claudia Beamish made a good point that many animals may be performing, and I use that in quotes, through fear. I do think the support for the eventual elimination of animals from circuses, qualified as it was by waiting until the natural lifespans has expired, is at least a recognition that the practice should end, and I will extend a welcome to that. But I do think it is inconsistent to be against something in principle but to allow it to continue in practice, and that is in fact what was said. Alison Johnson made the point that we should be pressing the UK government for a ban. I'm going to make a rod for my own back by saying that we have the powers to do it ourselves. What is currently before the UK government is in fact an English-only provision, and the devolved administrations can make their own arrangements. There was, of course, a debate in Westminster Hall yesterday on this subject. Unexpectedly, a Conservative member, Penny Mordaunt, topped any of the contributions I've previously made in that debate by revealing that one of her previous jobs was as a magician's assistant. Perhaps Mr Ferguson should consult her to find the magic way out of what I think is a rather awkward place to be. The general public, the members of the animal welfare organisations, are unambiguously clear and have been since 2004 in Scotland, and last year 95% respondents to a DEFRA consultation were against it. We've heard the numbers quoted. I don't debate any of them. And of course, Elaine Murray highlighted the issue of Anne the elephant. And let's be absolutely clear that I think virtually nobody could fail to be moved by the plight of that poor animal, and we wish her a long and happy retirement at Longleat. And there isn't huge evidence that it's other than an isolated example of systematic abuse. But then the point of the debate is not about systematic abuse, although it occurs, but about the restriction of liberty and normal behaviours. And Many organisations, the Scottish SPCA, the British Veterinary Association and many others have made the point. Now, the UK coalition government are looking to regulate animals in circuses through licensing and inspection. There are some who think that that could lead, in fact, to an increase in the number of wild animals who are used by circuses. And it is worth just referring to the definition that the Radford report used of what a wild animal is, because it is a member of a species not commonly domesticated whose collective behaviour, life cycle or physiology remains unaltered from a wild type despite breeding and living conditions being under control for multiple generations. So it isn't simply animals captured from the wild and put in circuses, but wild species that may have been domestically bred. The Circus Working Group in 2007 said our present state of knowledge about the welfare of non-domestic animals used in circuses is such we can't look for scientific evidence. That's why I think Elaine Murray and others are correct to look at it from a different perspective. And the Radford report said the status quo is not a tenable option. And concluded that a ban should be proceeded with. So the question is an ethical and a legal one. The dilemma for ministers is how to do it. There have been legal challenges, although these appear now to be disposed of in Austria in particular, on human rights, and it appears that that has now been cleared. We will certainly continue to look at this. We are, as a result of this debate and other inputs we've had, and the continuing information that's coming from Westminster, been watching this with considerable interest and engagement. Elaine Murray asks me to state that animals being used for entertainment is unacceptable, and I'm absolutely happy to do that. And I will continue to work with the member to bring this matter to a satisfactory conclusion. Presiding Officer.
Thank you, Minister, and I now close this meeting of Parliament.